game.
What's going on, y'all? It's Big John, and welcome back to another episode of It's All in the Game. So today, I got a little riddle for you, okay? How is it possible that in the last 15 years in America, the number of people incarcerated in our county jails has increased threefold? But in the same period of time, the number of people being convicted of a crime has remained almost exactly the same. How is that possible? I'm going to tell you how it's possible, all right? It's possible because of the bail bond system, all right? Now, a lot of times when somebody hears the term bail bond, they think of a bail bondsman. That's the person that you go pay for a fee to get you out of jail when you can't afford to pay the bail yourself. Now, the bail bondsman is definitely part of the bail system. But the heart of the bail system is the process that takes place when somebody is arrested and the court determines a monetary sum that that person has to pay in order to be released pending the outcome of their charges. So that means they pay money, they're released from jail, and as long as they show up to all their court dates, they get that money back when it's all said and done. If they don't show up, that money gets forfeited, right? Okay, so what's the problem with that? Now, there are many problems with that system. First and foremost, not least among them, is the fact that our Constitution guarantees us the right to the presumption of innocence until we've been proven guilty. The bail system incarcerates people based not on guilt or innocence, but based on one's ability to pay a sum of money, all right? The second problem is that it's ineffective. There's an organization called the Bronx Freedom Fund, and what they do is they find people who have low bails and low severity crimes that are unable to pay those bails, and then they go and bond those people out with no expectation of being paid back. They send those people a notice in the mail every week reminding them that they have a court appearance. What they have found in the last 4 years is that 96% of people will come back for their court dates. They don't want this shit hanging over their heads. And they have nothing to lose by not coming back. The Bronx Freedom Fund is the one who put that money up, not a friend or family member or themselves. So if they don't come back, they're not going to lose anything. Yet 96% of people come back to court anyway. The biggest problem with it is that it disproportionately affects poor communities and poor members of our community. A couple years ago, the U.S. Treasury did a study, and they found that 40% of Americans are unable to pay a $400 emergency expense of any kind. So if somebody were to be arrested and be given a bail of $400, $500, $1,000, we're talking like 40-50% of Americans are unable to pay that kind of bail. And a low bail like that, we're talking about people being arrested for disturbing the peace, probation violations, prostitution, minor drug possessions, that kind of stuff, right? These are the people that are stuck in jail and are unable to pay low bonds, all right? Now, if somebody is unable to pay that bond, an option they may have would be to go to a bail bondsman. The way a bail bondsman works, you have a $1,000 bond, you pay the bondsman $100, and then you have to provide collateral for the remaining $900. So he'll bond you out. If you don't come back to court, they're going to come after whatever that collateral is. They're going to come and get the money for the rest of that. And bondsmen make tons of money. This is a $2 billion a year industry. I could do a whole nother video on bondsmen. But the biggest problem with the bail system is that it forces people to plead guilty, even when they're not guilty. Because what happens is if you can't pay your bond and you've been sitting there in jail for some months on a relatively minor offense, and they say, look, if you plead guilty, we'll let you go with time served, you're gonna plead guilty almost every time. Now, this exact situation happened to me. I'm not going to get into all the details in this video because it would be too long. I will put them in the comments below if you're interested in reading them. But I was arrested on a fleeing and eluding. They said that I ran from the police when they tried to pull me over, which I did not do. when they pulled me over, because fleeing and eluding is a felony, they did a felony stop, which means, put your hands out the window, throw the keys out, get on the ground with their guns pulled and all that business. And they searched me and they found a $20 bag of dope on me. So they arrested me for fleeing and eluding and for possession, okay? Now I knew that I didn't run from the police, but I'd been in jail 4 months. They said plead guilty to these charges and you can go home. So I went into court to plead guilty. I told the judge exactly what happened. The judge said, Mr. Big John, I can't accept your plea of guilty. What you just described is not a crime. That's a civil infraction. My lawyer says to me in open court, you're going to have to tell him you accelerated, meaning that I ran from the police, which I did not do. So I said, Judge, I accelerated. And the judge said, I accept your plea of guilty. And 2 weeks later, I got sentenced and I went home. All right. If I had stayed in jail and fought it, I could have beat that fleeing and eluding. And once they don't have that felony, they don't have the right to search me and they never find the dope, and both of those charges go away. But the bond system is set up to encourage people to plead guilty. There's an organization called the Bail Fund. They work in 8 cities in America, just like the Bronx Freedom Fund. They find people with low severity crimes who are unable to pay small bails, and they go and bond these people out. And they work with them to help them overcome obstacles to get them to court. Like maybe the person doesn't have a ride, maybe they have a child that needs childcare. Since 2018, they've bonded out over 2,000 people. Of those 2,000 people they've bonded out, 60% have had their charges dropped altogether. The remaining 40% had their charges reduced, and only 2% of the people actually had to do more jail time, all right? Now, if those people had been unable to pay their bond, they would have sat in jail for some months waiting to plead guilty in order to get out with time served, or maybe get a little bit more time. But because someone paid their bail for them, the majority of them had their charges dropped altogether, all right? The bail system is inherently wrong, y'all. It bases your freedom not on whether or not you have committed a crime, but on your ability to pay to get yourself out. And that cannot go on like that any longer. Y'all heard it from Big John. If you like this content, please click that like button and please subscribe so you know when more videos come out. It's all in the game, y'all.